Deaf.
Deaf.
Deaf. Deaf.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Death by Daylight. My name is Josh, and this is our second episode of the year, getting right back on track, hopefully right where we left off. And this is episode 41? This is episode 40. 40. This is episode 40. And we are going to talk about, because I think we already announced it, are talking about Salem.
The cat.
I was gonna say this. I was gonna say the Salem witch trials, but that's not what we're talking about. I mean, I guess it is in a way, but we're talking about, at least the way that I've framed it, is that we're going to be talking about Salem as if some of these things were true, and then also talking about it in a way where we're not talking about the trials so much as the hauntings that happen in Salem. It's known as the the Halloween capital of the United States, which is there's all sorts of fun stuff there. It's one of the most haunted cities in the United States. There's fun stuff there, and so we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with, or has very little to do with the actual trials themselves. The reason that we're doing that is because the trials were little more than femicide. It's very simple. It's not as complicated as some people have led you to believe. What happened is that there were people in power, and they killed a bunch of the other people because they had power and because they didn't like some of them. It's really not a complicated situation. And yeah, so we're going to talk about the trials. We're going to talk about some of the ridiculous parts of the trials, but we will not be only discussing the Salem witch trials.
I thought we were just going to be talking about the cat from Sabrina.
Yes, I framed an hour-long episode about the cat.
All of my notes are about the cat and Sabrina.
We can just shift gears here. We can just shift gears hard.
Okay,
and,
so his movement speed, it's pretty...
it's kind of eerie, right?
It's kind of janky, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure that there are people out there that would enjoy an episode 100% about a cat, but not today, family. We're gonna be doing some other stuff, but it is gonna be an exciting episode. It's gonna be something that I've certainly been looking forward to because I like witches, and I've said that a bunch of times before because I mean it. I really, really like witches. I like the idea of them. I think they're hot, so that's what we're going to be doing today. Let's get to the normal stuff that we do. Ernie, what do you got for us?
Like for Dead by Daylight? Or...
No, like, what are you drinking? How are you doing?
Yeah,
General introduction.
I'm drinking a White Claw tangerine.
Oh.
I got some whiskey here, you know. The norm. Just chilling, vibing out on a Sunday, watching foosball all day. Go Bucks, right? Am I right?
Hell fucking yeah, go Bucks, baby! Last week, they were one of the first games of the week last week, and so once they won, I got to watch the rest of the week. I got to watch football with I just got to enjoy football. I didn't have to worry about winning and losing and all this shit that people were talking. I just got to watch and enjoy football. And this week was the fucking opposite. I spent every single waking moment nervous as fuck about whether or not the Bucks are going to win. So I didn't enjoy any of the games, including the one the Bucks played until like the last 7 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Uh, Sarah P says, "Hi, Michelle."
Hi, Sarah. How are you? I love you and I miss you.
Yeah. So does
is
Josh.
someone in the wind?
I have a fan next to me. Let me turn it off. Sorry. That's
It's
all me.
it's the added effect for witches, you know.
Is
Mean
it?
that.
It's the.
I'm flying
It's
on my broom right
Yeah,
now, or
exactly.
there
something.
we go. That's that shit
That's what I
out.
meant to say.
All right. So, uh,
What about you,
you were
Michelle?
vibing, and then what are you drinking? I don't know if you're drinking because I know someone drank a little bit last night.
I said
Yes, I did. How did you know? Who told you?
Well, then makes a couple of you, I think.
yeah, I'm drinking the White Claw bullets. Yeah. What
The
about you,
White
Michelle?
Claw bullets.
How are you today on this beautiful Sunday night?
I was about to say morning. I don't even know what time it is.
That's what I even
So-
thought about. I was like, night?
Yeah. I'm good. I drank yesterday, and then I drank Thursday, and it took me like a few. I don't know. I'm starting to feel my age, but yeah, after Thursday night, I was hungover for the next 2 days, and it was a whole thing. Yeah, I'm sure our listeners are here to listen to me talk about being hungover. Anyway, I am drinking though. Fun story. I um I made a cordial. Well, besides that, no, I made a cordial on New Year's Eve. I had someone. It was a family member slash old Eve customer, and she was like, "Yo, girl, like I want to get crunk this New Year's Eve. Do you think you could make me like a cocktail that I used to like?" I was like, "Which one?" And she told me, "Oh, it's this really complicated one with a really complicated cordial that's going to take you 3 hours to make." To which I was like, "You know what? Your family, I'll do it for you. I'll give you like the family friends discount, whatever. Fuck it. I'll even throw the whiskey in." So then I didn't hear from her. She was like, "Okay." I made the thing, took me 3 hours, didn't hear from her. So now I have like a whole container of like the horchata cordial. So I saw it right now and I was like, fuck it, that's what I'm drinking. So yeah, it's just, if you remember it from the bar, it's just like half and half the horchata cordial and whiskey, and it's, I guess I made it really strong. All I tasted is the whiskey. So,
It sounds delicious.
I'm taking a whiskey with a
Um,
hint of horchata.
yes, exactly. Really cinnamony, but
Simonini.
that's been my day in a nutshell. Just that's it. That's all I
It
got.
sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If I'm not mistaken, you have a cocktail minute for us too, don't you?
I do have a cocktail minute for you. Are we ready? Is it happening?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Why the fuck not?
All right. So I was inspired by Salem. Yeah, no shit, Michelle. No,
cat, right?
the cat, yes. So, the cocktail I came up with, I just called it a Salem Sour because I'm all about those. Oh my gosh. What's the term when it's like a name and the first letter starts with the same letter, or the first? I'll get back to that.
Anagrams. No,
No,
that's wrong.
it starts with an A though. You're right. Alliteration.
Alliteration.
Yes,
Oh,
alliteration.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Yes. Fuck. All right. But yeah, love alliteration. So Salem Sour. It's a play on the Cosmo because we're gonna talk about Salem and witches and femicide and also like fuck toxic masculinity, and Cosmos are fun to drink. I
There you
wish
go.
Jesus was here.
He'd be like, hey, yeah.
And then
You'd be
I
like, hell
also yeah, no, really.
Girl.
And I wanted to highlight the flavors in a Cape Cod because that's the most New England sounding drink ever. A fucking Cape Cod. Fun fact, that's even shortened. It's a Cape Codder when it was first published. Anyway, I also incorporated, lastly, just herbs and spices. That's important to like modern witch practices nowadays.
Nice.
But anyway, Salem Sour. It's going to be an ounce and a half of the Deep Eddy Cranberry vodka, 0.25 ounces of Saint Elizabeth Allspice Drams. It's just a liqueur. Think Allspice, so really, really heavy on, that spice, but also not that sweet. But then a little bit of a chamomile honey syrup, some lime juice, some saline, salt, again, very important in modern witch practices, and then some rosemary. Your shake, strain in your witchy-est goblet, and then burn a piece of, or rather a sprig of rosemary, and bam. Salud.
Salud.
Well, not only does it sound delicious, it's very on brand.
Yeah.
Yes. I tried. I tried
And
really hard.
that will be in the description for anybody listening that wants to recreate it at a later time. We will have it down there as always. Not as always, it's something that we started recently, but as always moving forward, we will have that down there for you. And so that you can drink it at another time. It's actually something that, not actually, but it's something that I would like to try. It sounds delicious.
Actually.
Not a Cosmo guy, but
This is like a dressed up Cosmo,
it's very witchy.
a warmer, kind of more elusive Cosmo, if you, think about it that way.
I will think about it that way.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead. Do you want to talk about the DVD part of it, Ernie?
I'm just gonna play Twins first, and then kind of see how it goes from there. Nothing really
For sure.
special, just ruin and dying to try to not make them do gens. Yeah, nothing
Alright.
really crazy. Just like a sweaty build in a sense, but.
Well, if this is your first time with us at Death by Daylight, we are going to continue with a drinking game. That's how we open up every episode, and the rules are quite simple. We will try to tell you if you don't know what some of these terms mean, but every time that Ernie gets a hook, we're going to drink. Every time he breaks a generator, we're going to drink. Every time, or his first and third kill, we will be drinking. And on the second and fourth kills, we will be taking shots. So, if you don't know what any of that means, we'll try to make sure that we let you know. We usually,
Ask us in the comments.
I always say whatever you want to in the comments.
Yeah.
I normally, or not normally, but before Jared has been in the comments letting people know exactly when to drink because he likes drinking and he wants to drink at the appropriate times and help others. So,
Yes.
Sarah says, say your intention before you drink your Salem Sour, then it's a proper spell. Yes, that's fantastic. We're going to get into spells. We're going to get into not curses. That's not a thing really. But we're gonna get. I mean, it is a thing, but not for witchcraft. We're gonna get into modern practices. We're gonna get into practices from the time period that we're referencing. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But in the meantime, we're gonna drink some alcohol, which I'm excited about today. I get to celebrate today, so I'm excited about that. Even though normally on a Sunday I wouldn't really go hard in the paint.
But the Bucks won.
Exactly, Ernie. Nothing else matters.
Foosballs for the devil. Oh wait, no, what did she say?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Said.
four.
That's
Okay.
exactly what she says.
I can't do her accent though. I'm sorry. Sorry, fans of Waterboy.
The
But
devil.
you'll know what I mean.
Everything's the devil to you, mama.
She showed me her boobies, and I like that too.
That line is fucking iconic, I swear.
Yeah.
I watched that movie more times than I'm proud of, but
I've watched that movie a lot of times that I am very proud of.
good for you for not feeling shame.
My Bible is saying something about it.
Never mind none day. Never mind none day.
But yeah. Alright, let's vibe out. Let's fucking play with the little
Let's
tick
vibe
goblin
out.
and
Yeah.
Oh, let's vibe out. All right.
we're vibing out to the tick goblin.
All right. Bro, I'm good. Vibe out to whatever you want to vibe out to. I'm all about it. This was something that I had been wanting to do for a long time, and then I got to it, and I was like, the stuff that's there, like the research that's there, is all like very technical. Like, it's for educational purposes, like history education. So everybody that talks about it is like a history person instead of like a horror person, which is a lot of the angles that I'm able to get because I'm so immersed in that, in consuming that world, that I get a lot of really great perspectives, and this was not that. I had to really fucking dig for actual witchcraft stuff.
Agree. I was on TikTok looking at videos. But there's different sections of TikTok, so this was called Witch Talk. And I have been seeing these videos that like come up, and again they're doing like binding spells on certain things, and again it was a topic that, again, because of Salem, or rather the trials in Salem, right? When all of that, and how you said like it's taught to us, it's a history thing, right? It makes it look kind of taboo. It makes it like, oh, witches, they're just, devil worshippers, or whatever, right? It's like this scary kind of thing. But then kind of going to TikTok or Witch Talk and seeing that, it's like there are still practicing witches today. It's just, it's not, them getting naked and running in the forest. And I mean, it could be, I don't know. So I don't know. It's like this weird, like, what have movies told me, literature told me, versus what has like history taught me. And like now there's this new modern, like, I'm going to be more open with my quote-unquote witchiness, my witch practices, right? And it's like, I don't, like, at some point I was like, what if I say something offensive? Like, I don't mean it. It was like kind of this, like, I'm just trying to learn, I swear. Yeah, that's what I got.
Do you think that witches from Salem and all the witches that died, the women that died, do you think that those women and witches walked and then were slaughtered so that TikTok witches can run? Or do you think they're just so separated from each other that it doesn't matter?
I think they're so separated from each other that doesn't matter. But fuck. Let me rephrase that. Okay. I'm going to say yes and no to both, like 50-50. Why? I think it's so separated that at the time in Salem, it was a very religious thing, right? Women were being persecuted for these religious, like, I think I mentioned I have like a list of like signs that meant that you were a witch, and one was that you were very old, and it's like, how dare you be old, or you're very poor, like, oh, you fucking freeloader, you're ruining the community, right? So it's like stuff that you can't really relate to modern society now. However, yeah, like you were kind of mentioning, like everything you could find was just from a historical standpoint. So it was just teaching, like, oh, like if you're different, or if you consider yourself to be quote unquote a witch, then you would have been killed back then. But also, I don't know, like it's weird. Like, I want to tie it together. So how you said like they died, so these witch talk women can go on and do these videos, but it's different. There's like, again, in modern times, like there's not like, oh, you have to be married by like 18 and have a family by 19, and you're gonna be killed if you don't have 3 to 4 children by 20. It's, the times are different, but I guess that's also connected.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're gonna give legitimacy to the narrative that there was actual witchcraft going on back then, which I am, then you need to give credibility to witches that are currently practicing. And for me, I think that the line here and the context of how I'm going to present this is, I'm not trying to justify things by saying that this witchcraft was actually going on. What I'm doing is having fun, and buying into this narrative strictly based on the idea that it was happening, and it's not like, oh, it was happening and they deserve to die. If it was happening and it was real, I still wouldn't think that. I really like I said, I like the idea of witches. I like getting into the mythology and the lore and the study of it, and so that's the place I'm coming from too. So giving legitimacy to the witches back then, and at the same time condemning, of course, what happened to them, and because they were women, not witches, and it was just an abuse of power. But we'll get into all that. Let's get into the game here just a little bit. We've got hooks already. I can see at least 2 that have happened. Is my count off?
No, you're good.
All right, so we've got 2 hooks. I'm gonna go ahead and take my hook drinks. Of course, you're more than welcome at home. Realize it's Sunday, not Friday, which is when we usually do this, so if you can't drink along with us, perfectly understandable. We're also very into responsibility here at Death by Daylight, not just regular horrors, but the horrors of life. And so you don't have to drink. But we're gonna drink. What are you drinking? We didn't even. We went over it a little bit, but I definitely didn't say mine. Did I miss anybody else?
Oh no, I told my story about my family relative who made me make this fucking complicated thing, and now I'm just drinking it myself. So that's what I'm drinking. So it's like a little chopped up bourbon drink. That's it.
White Claw and Bullet.
Oh yeah, we did go over that part. Well then I'm drinking Voodoo Ranger Hazy IPA, which I don't like everything that Voodoo Ranger does, even when it comes to like just the IPA segment of what they do. I'm not a fan of everything, but this one is delicious. It's so good. It has obviously there's a hard citrus element to it, which is the first way to win over my heart if you're going to brew an IPA is the citrus part of it. But it's strong. It's definitely, I think it's a 7.5. It's 7.5 on the alcohol content. So it's not weak. It's not like fucking Maharaja, but it's very nice. It has a fucking wonderful finish. It's smooth, but not so much that you feel like you're not drinking an IPA. There's still an intense bitter part of it, but it's just a fantastic, refreshing, crisp finish from the Voodoo Ranger Juicy Hazy IPA. And then I have, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I've got Strawberry Lemonade Vodka, because it was $4, and that's what I decided to get, so... can't always drink good liquor. It's not the way that life works. Oh, it's Svedka. I mean, I do feel shame, and particularly at this moment, I feel shame, but that's alright, it'll get you drunk. Jared's here. He says, hey guys, just got out of work, just came to pop in for a bit. What's up, dude? The hazy is good. I always drink it at Bricktown. I remember having it with you at Bricktown one time, and I don't know why I just wasn't a fan that first time that I had it. But obviously since then, I'm very, very into it. I really do. I think it's just fantastic. I know you drink the regular Voodoo Ranger IPAs too at Bricktown, and I don't like those very much. It's too malty for me. All right.
Speaking of strawberry flavored things, real quick, have you tried Snoop Dogg's new gin? It's called
No.
Indoggo. So it's like Indoggo.
Isn't it like
Nice.
Isn't it like grape gin or something like that?
Yeah, it's a strawberry flavored gin. So
Okay.
it basically tastes like a strawberry flavored vodka that they added like the tiniest drop of juniper berry to.
And then charge like a lot of money.
I don't. What? Was it expensive? Nah, like standard, like $30-ish bottle, maybe. Yeah. Like, yeah, but it was funny. When we opened it, Tessa took like a big sniff, and he was like, "Whoa." He's like, "It smells like fucking. Oh my god, what did you say? It smells like Smirnoff, like
Aw.
Smirnoff. Like it just." Yeah, but anyway, it's good in a gin and juice. I like
Well,
Snoop Dogg.
imagine that.
So I will say, if you want to try it, do it. Just make gin and juice, and it's fucking amazing. That's kind of how I drink half the bottle. And don't drink half a bottle because you will be hungover, ladies and gentlemen. So.
So the game,
Alright.
it killed everyone.
Did you already?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Nice.
Well, I mean, good for you. Bad for us.
Yeah.
Depending on how you're looking at it, but congratulations on a 4K. I see at least one red ranking there.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we've got a lot of drinking to do.
Cheers.
Before we get into Salem, well, let me pour up 2 seconds. All right. So the first shot here that we owe Ernie. Everybody at home, thank you for tuning in. And do someone else want to cheers? Someone have anything in mind? I can do it if not.
To Salem the cat.
Salem the cat.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Here's kitty cats.
Oh.
Strawberry lemonade vodka.
Yum.
Yeah, it's too sweet and it doesn't take anything off. This is what I get for not getting fucking Deep Eddies.
Kind of like the girl I met last week. Hey-ho!
Oh man,
I was waiting for it. I was like,
that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, it's a sad story, I guess.
I know, right?
All right. Salem, Massachusetts. We're gonna get some gruesome stuff that's going to happen. We're gonna cover the trials part of it immediately, so that we can get it over with, and then move into how we're planning to cover it and what context and things like that. So trigger warnings for femicide. I mean, just straight murder of people, mass murder of people. So that's a trigger warning, and there we go. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the origin of how all of this came to be. So the witch trials, which were really a witch hunt, right? That's where that term comes from. Not Salem specifically, but all of the witch trials that happen throughout the world, specifically in the eastern coast of the United States and the UK, witch hunts. And so this particular witch hunt started because several not young women, girls, like between the ages, I think, of 8 and 12, decided that they were going to say that one of these women that was kind of an outsider in the community was in fact a witch, and she had cursed them, and a lot of people believed them because this woman had actually been accused of witchcraft in her past, but she was not convicted because there was a lack of evidence. What you'll find eventually is that it doesn't matter how much evidence there is once this thing starts really catching fire, pun intended, but there's just no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They have all these fucking wacky tests that we're going to talk about, and it doesn't fucking matter if you had evidence or you were a witch or whatever, you're probably going to die. Just a brief example of one of those things, because we're going to get into a little bit of audience interaction here with them, is that they would tie your dominant hand to the foot on the opposite side. So if you were right-footed, they would tie your right hand to your left foot, and they would throw you in the lake. And if you floated, then you were a witch. If you sank, you were not a witch. Unfortunately, and very painfully obviously, there were innocent women that drowned because they sank, which means they were not witches, but then they couldn't swim because their arm was tied to their leg. So we get a lot of that. We get a lot of that shit. We get a lot of people accusing their neighbors, you'd get into a fight with someone across town. Oh, well, their daughter's a witch. Well, let's fucking get her. And all of this started because these girls did not like this woman, and they decided that they were going to have her killed for being a witch. That woman's name is Bridget Bishop. She was the first woman accused of being a witch, and so again, the first time, whole trial, not enough evidence. The second time, when people were already scared and there was a mass hysteria, and mostly people were bored because they were alive in that time, in that point in history, the trial lasted a day and a half the second time, and she was found to be a witch and then killed. And that's kind of how things go. There's, again, we're going to get into a little bit. As a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and do that. Michelle has prepared a list of things, of ways that people were found out to be witches. Is that right, or am I butchering that?
No, yeah, it's basically, it was like signs that would make you qualify as a witch in 1692. So I wanted to do kind of a back and forth. I don't know how many people are listening, watching, commenting, but I feel like the first sign in general is like already gonna cut out like all the people, which is you're a female. That literally was like sign number one. Oh, are they a female? Well, fuck. And what I kind of wanted to do, like just like as far as like these things, it's like wanted to lessen, like, this is a list I actually found, but like also my interpretations of how like men try to justify these signs. So, oh, you're a female. And one of the things I read, that meant that you're one of the devil's hell bride because you have a vagina. Like, you should have thought about that before, ladies. Oh, well. I did have a question about this to anyone listening. Oh, and I guess we can do the back and forth with the audience after this one, because this is just like, again, you're a female, whatever. Not whatever, that was important. Not just like, just throwing that aside. I'm going to get into that later. But let's say back then I was, there, and a woman clearly had a vagina. What if I identified as non-binary? Would I still be fucked? I didn't identify, yes. I still had a vagina, but you know what I'm getting at. Like, with the whole identifying as non-binary just mean like, oh, well, she's trying to, like, trick us or some shit. I don't know.
If you were to tell somebody back then, they're like, well, they're talking to you about like being a woman or something, and then like one of the old ladies is trying to teach you what it means to be a woman, and then you're like, well, I 100% respect your choice to represent womanhood in that way, and I think that it's great that you feel that way, but I don't even know if I identify as a woman. You would immediately be thrown in jail.
Yeah.
You'd be like, I don't know. I don't think that I'm really a woman or a man. I don't know. And then boom, she's the devil, and then that would be it. That's how closed-minded, and that's the thing is, like, if you suffer from any form of mental illness, you back then would be fucking killed. Not that the struggle isn't real today, but we at least have an opportunity at life and can be open about struggling from things like anxiety and panic attacks and depression, which those things would have just been considered to be evil and from the devil in that point in time. And so I imagine being non-binary or obviously being transgender or being queer in any way, shape, or form would get you thrown directly in jail.
Because I know one of the signs which we'll get to, but was basically just if you broke any rule in the Bible. Because again, it was very it was based on this. They were like super religious, right? So anything that, again, like you said, like straight away from that, then yeah. So number 1, having a vagina. Bam, you're fucked.
Sarah says Joan of Arc is a good example of non-binary stake burning. Sorry, I almost said skate. Skate burning? Yeah, so do you want to take this? I don't know enough about. I know why Joan of Arc died. I know her part in that war, but I don't know anything else about her. Do you, by any chance, know anything?
I had no idea she was non-binary. That feels like something I should have known.
Yeah, it feels important,
maybe.
doesn't it?
Yeah, Sarah, do you want to school us on that in the comments, please?
Yeah, please. If you have more on that, we'd be happy to read your comment and enlighten ourselves as well as the audience.
Yeah. So for the rest of the signs, I guess, just if you fall into this category, simple high five emoji or like me emoji or text or whatever, that'd be fun, just so we know like how many of us are fucked, which I'm pretty sure it's all of us. Okay, so number 2, you're poor. So you can't support yourself financially. Basically, while reading that, I'm like, fuck you, you freeloader, right? They had an example. This woman, her name was Sarah Good. Sarah. No, she was hung. She was extremely disliked and was distrusted by neighbors because she would wander house to house begging for food. So, again, the poor bothered those that, were a little more better off. So, fuck you, you're a witch, die. Next, you're rich, aka financially independent. Also, fuck you, you independent cunts. How dare you not need a man in your life?
Right.
And that was specifically what they were targeting. It was like that women, basically, so I found this statistic or percentage that of the women that we actually do have information about that were convicted, I guess, as witches. Blah, blah, blah. There were women without brothers or sons to share their inheritance, and they compromised 89% of those who were executed for witchcraft in New England from the years of 1620 to 1725. So that's kind of the whole rich aspect. Moving on, next. You have one or more female friends.
One or more?
Yeah. So basically, go back to your own kitchen, witch. So yeah, basically women meeting in groups without a male chaperone. That of course meant that you were just worshiping the devil. How dare you, woman, go back to your kitchen.
Yeah, clearly more than one woman in a room is a sinister threat.
Let's see. Having an argument, which you mentioned this, with a female friend. It was specified female friend. And to me, that was like, fuck you, bitch. You're about to catch these hands. No. Sorry. I was having fun just like reading these and be like, okay, what was going through their mind? Jesus. So that was more of they were persecuting women, right? And then there was these 2 infamous quote-unquote witch finders that they kind of inspired, I guess, terror within the community, or I guess like women on women, like accusing each other, because again, it was more women were more likely to be accused as witches than men, right? So you had these 2 men who were going around saying, are you rich, are you poor, are you this? Well, your next door neighbor Karen just said that like you borrowed bread from her and basically she's throwing you under the bus, and then she'd be like, oh no, like she tried to put a spell on my husband, blah blah blah. So yeah, they were kind of going around like starting shit for no reason. And well, not no reason, like it was like a power move, right? Like
Right.
clearly certain people in this community had a little bit too much power, too much fun with it, and basically damned women for it. Moving on. You had an argument or a disagreement with someone. So this is kind of the same as the one before, but again, this is kind of playing in not just females. Again, taking into consideration men as well. The next one. You are very old.
Oh no.
So older women, married or unmarried, were extremely susceptible to accusations. I believe Bridget Bishop, wasn't she in her 60s when she was?
Yeah, she yeah, for sure. Which especially back then was considered elderly.
That was, yeah, she's very old, and especially during that time for sure. And then the next one, you are very young. So an example of this was, her name was Dorothy Good. She was 4 years old when she confessed to being a witch, because. Oh, why? Fuck me, where are my notes? Sorry. But no, she was 4 years old. As soon as she confessed to being a witch, though, this implicated her mom, and her mom was also, she was hanged. And Dorothy, again, this 4-year-old, was imprisoned for 9 months. Also, this left her permanently, like, mentally, like, unstable, or they kind of just said, like, insane. And, again, she was 4 years old. She had no fucking clue what she was being accused of. She was just like, yeah, that sounds like fun. Yeah, I play with twigs outside, you know? Like, again, it was one of those just, what the fuck. Next, you're a healer. Basically, you helped anyone. Not just, like, healer, like, as far as, like, it did kind of do the whole, like, you know, you prescribe treatments. Like, again, back then, who were doctors? You know? But, again,
Right.
also think, like, science or like healing, like, oh, that's magic, oh no, the Bible
Like spiritual
shuns
healers.
against that. Yeah, so it was both spiritual but also like, you know, doctors, like people trying to, so yeah, both. Next, you are married with too few or no children. So fuck you, and
so
you're
it's like
unholy womb.
it's subjective. Like
Yeah.
what too few means?
I guess like not more than 1, 2, depends on who's, like basically interrogating you. But yeah, basically that was the devil cursed your unholy womb. Plus another thing that tied into this, if your neighbors were trying to have kids and they were having trouble conceiving, that was another sign. But that wasn't their fault, that was your fault. Because you didn't have the children and you were married as well, so you know, that would throw both of those, like, parties, neighbors, whatever, into the whole, like, accusing one another, and they would both basically be fucked from there. How are our comments? Anyone said anything? These are also...
so Sarah has said, Joan of Arc, so she had to cross-dress and take on male attributes to join the army. One of the sins she was tried for was the cross-dressing, where we get her... That was her explanation for the non-binary thing. Because it was stated in, Deuteronomy, verses 22, line 5. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man. So don't cross-dress. Rebecca says, cheers to Salem. Hi, y'all. Hello, Bex. Sarah says, Bishop was also a widow. And when you were talking about healers being part of this wide net that they were casting, she said midwives and herbalists were infamously targeted.
Herbalists, yeah, for sure. That is one, again, like, just going to someone who knew a little bit more about herbs and like, hey, like, I'm constipated. Can you help a sister out? Nope. Go to jail. Straight to jail.
Undercooked fish, jail. Overcooked chicken, jail.
Believe it or not, jail.
Believe it or not, jail. Playing music too loud, jail. Driving too slow. Believe it or not, jail. Sarah says, "Sorry guys, I'm a witchy nerd." No, you were the audience. You, Sarah P, are the audience that we were targeting today. We wanted to, please, and like, if you have stuff, please comment. And if I fuck something up and you're like, that's not then also tell me, because we want to know how we can get better. You know what I mean?
So
go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm almost done with my list, I swear. So you know how I'm like super stubborn, kind of strange, and like I'm really forward. Like think of me behind the bar.
Not at
right?
all.
I know, right? I'm like, yeah, no. See, I would have been fucking just burned at the stake so quickly, for multiple reasons. But that was one of the signs if someone was too stubborn, strange, or too forward. Specifically, women. What kind of woman would backtalk or have sass, or specifically backtalk to men or men in general? There was a trial of someone, her name was Rachel Clinton, and her accusers solidified her case against her with the following, quote, did she not show the character of an embittered, meddlesome, demanding woman? Perhaps, in short, the character of a witch. Did she not scold, rail, threaten, and fight? Literally the last words. After that, the fucking strangler, what was his name? Jonathan Corwin, basically the judge who like did all of the.
I thought you were gonna say
trials,
Jonathan Van Ness.
That too. No, after that.
Yes.
That's the one.
Imagine him just back then.
Jonathan
She is a witch.
And she's a witch. But yeah, after that, that was it. Her life. So next, Sarah has a lot of these freckles, moles, birthmarks, or a third nipple. She doesn't have the third nipple. It's just the freckles. She has a lot of those and moles. But yeah, it's funny. I learned that from her, and she would always say that if she were alive back then, yeah, she would have probably died because of that. But yeah, that was a reason. They were interpreted as the devil's mark. Next. If you had spoiled butter or milk in your house.
Keep in mind also, it's not like they have a fucking refrigerator, so that milk is going bad very fast.
Of course it's going, but yeah, they didn't just have like, even like those like...
You couldn't even get ice.
Yeah, they didn't have like, I was gonna say, there's like rudimentary, like, what are they called? Like the ice boxes, right?
Yeah.
Like if anything, like...
Marion.
Yeah.
Like they would wait for snow and try to bury it in, but like that's about it. But like, fuck, if you got asked about your milk or butter during the summer, you're kind of fucked.
You just at that point, do you just decide you're not gonna drink milk or eat butter? You're like, look,
I guess so.
It's not worth being fucking prosecuted as a witch for me to like have some fucking hot cocoa. Like I'm just not. I'm not gonna do it.
I just picture like, oh. Why aren't you eating any cereal? What's wrong with your milk? Huh?
Like, no, look. I'm gonna have these fucking oats and fucking grass that used to be cereal. Like, I'll fucking put milk in it. Okay.
You're like eating it crying because you don't want to die.
It just like, I don't know why. Like I just pictured like
cereal back then is so terrible. I don't even.
It's so extra dry. I just picture like a plate of pancakes, but without any butter, just like staring like, oh, like someone's all sad.
Michelle, you can still make blueberry syrup in those times, so.
But butter's important.
Even if butter's not nearly as important as blueberry syrup. Blueberry syrup can make any pancake better, even like dry, terrible pancakes.
What about buttermilk pancakes?
Ooh. Fire.
Well, I mean, obviously the best. I'm not saying that you know me. I'm a fan of butter.
So like the person that made buttermilk, that's technically spoiled milk. So they were a witch.
See, that was my next thing. Is like, how does that even work? I don't know why. Just in that conversation, I just pictured someone sitting, like really sad, just staring at their pancakes, like, oh no. I can't have butter on these.
Oh no.
Everybody hurts. Sometimes.
Ooh, also, if you had said butter or milk spoiled and it was inside your house, if any of the local cows, if they could prove that they weren't producing milk and they find you with said butter or milk spoiled, that's your fault too.
Ooh.
Yeah. Alright, I think I have 2 or 3 more. Yeah. Next. You had sex out of wedlock. So.
Boom!
That's it. I think everyone's. Yeah, we're all fucked here. No,
We're all fucked here.
there was. I'm sure you read about. Is it Giles Corey, the guy who was famously pressed to death during these times. So he actually accused his wife of being a witch. Her name is Martha Corey. In her youth had an illegitimate mixed-race son. She eventually married twice. The last time was to this guy. And when the trials came about, he brought up her past indiscretions, quote-unquote. And then, was convicted and hanged, excuse me, I keep saying hung.
Yeah, you said earlier
I did
that
say
she was hung, and I was gonna be like,
hung and
"Ayo."
you're-
Yeah, she was.
But anyway,
That big
afterwards,
dick of justice.
If she
I
is
think
hung, she is a witch.
She's got a big dick, kill her!
but I feel like it'd be the other. No. See, like if that were the case, can't you be like, nah, I got a big dick, don't kill me. I'm one of you. I'm the good ones. I don't know. I mean,
One
men.
of the good ones. Could the devil create a dick this pretty? This is a fucking work of God, this dick. They're like,
But
you know what? We
then-
can't argue with him.
But then all the other men would be jealous, right? And then jealousy, big dick energy. Straight to jail.
They'd find a way. They'd fucking
Yeah.
plant spoiled milk in your
I
house.
mean, clearly, exactly.
that would be
yeah.
that would be
You
the
just-
end of that whole thing.
I was gonna say you just wake up. There's all this spoiled milk under your bread. Your bread, Jesus, your bed. I can't. I'm like laughing.
It's like the scene in The Godfather with the horse's head.
With
Like,
the horse. There's just like butter all over your sheets. Like fuck.
Honey, where did we get this milk from?
It's like, oh, Mr. Johnson brought it earlier, and he said to put it under the bed. Like, oh fuck!
Run, bitch.
Grab the go bag. Get the mule. We're the fuck out of here.
Oh fuck. I can't stop laughing. Alright, 2 more. Okay, if you attempted to predict the identity of your future husband. So, remember that game where you would fold that little piece of paper and then you'd pick a number and you'd say cool, and then you would go up into the side. It was like this little origami thing, and then you basically kept picking things until you opened it.
Boy,
and it was
do
like,
I.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Straight to jail.
Man, believe it or not, straight to jail.
Straight to jail. So, the little description under this, have you ever daydreamed about your soulmate, written their name in cursive in your notebook? Then, her name was Tituba, a slave woman who was living in Salem. That was construed as witchcraft, but there's a lot more, as far as, her history and story that I want to get into later. But no, that's kind of how, basically, they got her, convicted, or persecuted, convicted, or whatever. She, blah, 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 was one of the first women in Salem who was accused of practicing witchcraft. Lastly, I already mentioned it, and it's basically all of this kind of in one, which is you've broken any sort of rule in the Bible, and thus, by breaking the rule, you have entered in a pact with the devil. So. See,
this is the only one I agree with. Because,
oh, really?
I'm very Catholic, and I think that if you do anything outside of the very specific requests of the Bible, then you should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. You didn't see me on TV last week. at the Capitol.
Oh, gotcha.
I mean, obviously, I don't believe that. Could you imagine? Could you imagine if I took a fucking hard turn? Like, we've been doing this for 40 weeks, and then all of a sudden I'm like, you know what, guys? I want to talk to you guys about being saved by Jesus Christ. I think it's important that both of you try to save your souls.
Oh, connection problems.
Yeah,
No,
I was raised very Catholic, but I could not be further from a Catholic.
Likewise.
Anyway, so do we have one more, or was that?
That was it, but this one, of course, like, as far as the little description underneath, there was just, like, basically everything listed above, but, you know, missing church, no trading, no traveling, no kindling of fire, lying, being gluttonous, missing, I already said missing church, long hair, yeah, that was pretty much it. That means, oh shit, you broke a rule in the Bible, you made a pact with the devil, straight to jail.
Straight to jail.
And, again, I found a lot of lists and stuff, and I kind of, like, compiled one a little more, and, yeah. To me, it just sounds like these people get in our way. How can we get rid of them? Oh, I know. Let's just say they're witches, and let's just make a big. I don't know. Well, she's a female, so fuck her. Like, she's not having kids. We don't need her. She's not helping our community. Well, they're poor, so fuck them. They're just, like, leeching off all. Well, she's too rich. She's not willing to share her money.
It's not even that. It's not
like,
even that, like, evolved. It's not even that, like, it's not like smart people or people that were perceived as smart or, like, leaders in the community were like, let's get rid of, like, these very specific people that are making our neighborhoods or whatever less desirable. It was like, I don't like that person. That person said that they didn't like my shoes. I'm gonna fucking get her, and I'm gonna tell people, like, it wasn't even as complicated as people on the fringes or whatever. It was like, if you didn't like anyone for any fucking reason, that was it for them. They were never going to get out of that. And yeah, exactly. And that's where we get this just absolute abuse of power that largely came, obviously, from the male population. Jay Texas has joined the podcast. What's up, baby?
How y'all doing?
We summoned him with the Cosmo.
Don't tell me that. Don't say that. She'll be accused of being a witch.
I know, dude. Shut up. Someone can hear me.
I heard y'all talking about witches and the devil, so I thought Jesus should show up and bless all y'all motherfuckers.
To be fair, a lot of people killing a lot of other people in your name.
Well, you know, I have no. Yeah, you're right. I have like nothing.
Like,
Cool. No doubt.
I plead the fifth.
1, 2, 3, 4,
5.
Yeah. So we're in the middle of talk. We were not going to talk about the trials very much. We did a little bit, but it's obviously very important. You can't talk about the other parts of it without acknowledging the trials that took the witch hunts. That took place in Salem, because then you're not doing the people that were the victims of those witch hunts justice. That being said, we are going to talk about some hauntings that are thought to be alive and well in Salem, as well as some witchcraft stuff. So the first, and this isn't objective by any means. But for me, my personal experience with witches is that I lived near some in my current home when I was a young lad. Well, I guess now I live in a trailer, but the last home, my parents' home, there were a couple of people that 2 women that lived. not very far from us. So my street has 2 cul-de-sacs on either end. They lived in the cul-de-sac in front of us. You can see their house from my front yard. So it was that close. And one day, my mom and I think I was like 13 or 14. Actually, I think I was like 16. But anyway, we're doing stuff in the house because it's my sister's birthday, and we have stuff to get ready for the party. You guys remember gatherings of people? I was
never invited.
It would be at least another year before I would meet you, so...
Still saying I wasn't invited. Just kidding.
Oh, okay, alright. To any gatherings of any people?
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Go on.
So, like, we were doing stuff, and there was someone rang the doorbell, and there was obviously... I went to answer it, because that's what you do when you're a child, so you answer the door, you're a child and a teenager. And I open the door, and these women are standing out there, and they go, "Hello, we live here, whatever, we live in this house, and we were just coming over to say hi. We know you guys have been here for a while, and we just haven't had an opportunity to come and introduce ourselves, whatever." And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Let me go, and I'm going to talk to my mom, and so she can come out here." And I said, "Hey, Mom, there's these people, these 2 ladies here, and they want to introduce themselves to our neighbors." So my mom goes to the door, and she opens the door, and she looks outside, and I'm standing next to her. She grabs me by the back of my shirt, and she pulls me behind her, and then she goes, "Hello, how can I help you?" And the lady goes, "Well, I'm this, whatever, we live down the street, and we just came to introduce ourselves." And my mom goes, "Oh, okay, hello, it's very nice to meet you." And then the ladies go, "Yeah, we brought you some stuff, and we were just wondering if, you wanted to, just some housewarming stuff, whatever." Again, we had been here for years, so it was a little suspicious. But we brought you some stuff, and my mom goes, No, thank you. We really can't accept that right now." And she closes the door, and she locks the door in their faces. Now, there's a couple of things you need to know about my mother in order to get some context for this story. One of them is that she's incredibly polite. She's just from that time period where humans thought being polite to each other was important. And the other thing is that she is not at all creative, and she is not at she's the opposite of a liar. She's truthful to a fault. She's incapable even of lying. So in addition to not being able to tell a story or make up a story, she can't lie about things. I obviously have questions about why she would treat these women that way, and I said, "Mom, what happened? What just happened right now?" And she goes, "Those
the
women..."
Jehovah's Witness.
She goes, "I don't ever want you to open the door for those women ever again. And if you see them and you're by yourself, I want you to turn around and I want you to come home." And I said, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Obviously I didn't say fuck, but I was like, "What is going on? Like, what is happening?" She said,
You're like, "Bitch, what do you mean?"
She wouldn't talk to me then.
She said, "I plead the fifth."
She would not acknowledge anything. She just didn't want to talk about it. Years later, I come to find out, when my mother, I guess, was ready to tell me, that she is 100% convinced that those women were witches.
Were they hot?
No, they were not.
I don't know.
You said they dressed like Amish like people, right? You said?
They not Amish, but they were in like very like dresses like Mennonites, closer to like Mennonite dressing women.
But like under those clothes, were they fine as fuck? You think?
Man, those bloomers,
no,
girl.
There's no way. No, they were.
Right.
They were.
I don't know.
Yeah, they were. If anything, they were hung.
Growing up, like, I just have like a very scary image of like what a witch looks like, and then as an adult now, like, dude, they're fucking sexy. Like, I'm fucking with it. Like,
Sarah says they were probably just a nice lesbian couple.
Oh my god. There you go. Fucking witches scissoring. Oh my god. Fucking,
I mean,
I'm gonna touch my broomstick right now, guys. Fuck.
so
Jesus, calm down.
so Occam's razor would suggest that that's what happened. But there's the story goes deeper than that, right? So my mom has an uncanny radar for evil. It's been proven over and over and over again. I don't want to get into it right now because it has nothing to do with Salem. All I'm going to tell you is that I have every reason to trust her.
Is that why I'm not allowed over anymore?
And right. And again, she doesn't have the capability to make this shit up. She doesn't have a creative bone in her body, and she doesn't have a lying bone. She doesn't like fucking like sci-fi, anything like that. She just thinks it's dumb. She doesn't. There's no room for that kind of stuff in her life, and so for her to do something like this is incredibly out of character. Except for one other instance that happened before I was born, and maybe I'll tell that story at another time. But the other thing is that 3 years later, I was in Lubbock, Texas, at Texas Tech University. And my mother calls me and she says, I don't know why I keep calling her my mother. It's weird. It's like Norman Bates-esque. My ma calls me. And she says...
Okay, that's better.
Ma, get the meatloaf.
That's exactly what I thought of, too.
Same. Where the fuck
So my ma calls me and she goes, hey, do you remember blank, 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 whatever. I said, yeah, it was weird and you wouldn't talk to me about it. She goes, well, I think that they were witches, whatever. I said, okay, this is weird. This is the weirdest conversation we've ever had. And she goes, everyone in that house was murdered. I was like, what? And sure enough, there was a double homicide-suicide in that house.
Whoa.
Wait, were those girls murdered?
Well, we don't know because we didn't ever know their names or whatever.
No. It wasn't on the gift basket?
There were two. To be fair, two of the victims were female. Yes.
Oh shit!
But we cannot confirm that it was those exact people because we don't. There were never pictures, obviously, and then we don't know. Like we don't know what their names were, so it would be impossible for us to cross-reference that.
Wait, was she okay talking about it now, knowing that they were dead?
So the reason that she just felt like she had to. Like, she couldn't hold on to it anymore without talking to me about it. Like, she just couldn't... She even if she wasn't comfortable, she just needed to tell me that this was going on for whatever reason. I totally understand that, right? The only person that could possibly back you up in this theory or whatever is your son, and so you need to tell him whatever. But, so, all of this stuff, does this fucking personal experience... make or is it confirmation that witches exist? No, it's not. But that was my first introduction into witches and real life, not like fucking Sabrina or whatever. But and it would spark my fascination, right? It would spark my fascination with this whole thing, and so we move into Salem with that spirit. And we try to talk about the devil is what we're going to get into. We're going to talk about the devil.
Before the devil, we've taken one shot so far. I got 2 more 4Ks after that shot.
I mean,
it's Sunday,
for the first game. Yeah,
I didn't log on for this shit, guys. All right, what the fuck?
But I was just gonna say we should take another shot before we talk about.
We'll take at least one. Yeah,
before we talk about Daddy,
Yeah, Daddy Satan, love you, Daddy Satan. Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about Daddy. Let's take some shots.
I can never hear that story of Josh's witches neighbors again without thinking they're probably a nice lesbian couple.
That's all. We're just trying to say hi.
Well, and that's the thing too, is my mom, she's just not, even having grown up in a Catholic home, my family is not hateful. They're the opposite.
Yeah.
They, you know, even back then, when being gay was not something that was at all widely accepted, they were very accepting of it. And so it's not. She just has no reason. She has no reason to lie to me. But we'll save that for. Maybe we'll just do an episode on the other story that I was going to tell, where she met the devil.
Dun dun dun.
That's my teaser for that story.
I just pictured Josh like, everyone's a devil to you, mama. They were just a nice lesbian couple, okay?
I love that, like, Jesus wasn't here for the earlier part, and we referenced the water boy.
We referenced
and
the
got
water boy, and he comes in and references the water boy.
Fuck.
Dude, that's actually borderline incredible. If this was
the
Salem,
devil's
you would
work
be
right there.
you would be accused of being a witch because the coincidence is too much. They'd be like,
Yeah.
there's no way he did that without being a witch. So let's.
What
fucking
did you guys reference?
Just
the
a bunch
same
of
thing.
Spurs balls for
the devil.
Yeah, we were talking about
Okay.
football.
That's
Hey.
all I had
Nice.
to say about it.
Hey, Jesus, what's your milk situation right now at home, huh?
Mm-hmm.
My
Yeah.
milk?
Yeah, you got spoiled milk in your fridge, huh?
Or butter? Do you have spoiled butter anywhere in the house?
Yeah.
I don't get the reference, but I don't think so.
You got yogurt in
Well,
your
then,
fridge?
I mean, might want to make sure before someone accuses you of being a witch.
Yeah.
We do have yogurt in the fridge, actually.
Witch.
Is that witchcraft? Bro, I have
Yeah,
a fucking
bro,
yeast
that's-
infection. I gotta put the fucking yogurt on.
That's
Definitely a
also
witch.
witchcraft.
Oh,
Coincidence,
shit.
that's also witchcraft.
Yeast infections or putting the
Yeah.
yogurt on it?
No, just,
Okay.
yeah, both, all of it.
Oh,
It's all witchcraft.
Jesus
I don't-
Christ.
Yeah, well, that's
So,
why it was witchcraft.
what are we gonna do this cheers to? Yogurt
Uh,
on a yeast infection?
Yeast infections.
Oh.
Cheers.
Fucking love me a double quarter pounder, boys.
God damn it.
Mm. Mm-mm.
Ah, yes.
Holy fuck, you get what you pay for.
Well, yeah, you cheers to yeast infection. What did you expect?
Not that.
There you go. Boom. McDonald's, if you're listening,
Boom.
give
Let's
us that
make
quarter
a-
pounder with cheese. No onions,
Let's
extra
make-
pickles.
First the Travis Scott meal, then the J Balvin meal, now the Josh Marine meal.
Do you know
Oh,
that
the,
apparently, in a side note, before we go back into talking about the devil, in
Please.
Puerto Rico, there was a Bad Bunny meal.
Really?
That's what the person from Puerto Rico that I met was telling me.
Oh,
Christian?
shit.
Yeah.
Christian.
Christian.
Was he the Puerto Rican that you met?
No.
Imagine you still refer to him like you've known him for like 10 years and you were like, I met this Puerto Rican.
This Puerto Rican dude I met. Ernie,
Oh, it's like...
I know you on a personal level. Yeah, I know, but like, they don't
Sure
know
you
you.
Sure you do, you fucking Rican. Yeah, so fucking Christian, if you're listening,
We love you.
Boricua.
Oh shit! So that made me like just like Google fucking celebrity McDonald meals, and there used to be a Mick Jordan burger.
Yo, that sounds delicious and expensive.
It was just a cheeseburger with pickles, raw onions, circular bacon, and barbecue sauce.
What?
And the sesame seeds
Bacon's
were
not a
inside.
circle.
Well, fuck. For Jordan, it was.
Fucking love Michael Jordan. He can make even bacon make a circle.
Oh, I was thinking Jordan Peele. I was so confused.
Oh my what?
What? When you hear the word Jordan, your first thought is Jordan Peele and not Michael Jordan?
She's not a
Well,
sports
like
person.
I said, foosballs for the devil.
Bro, we were raised in different dimensions. Like Michael Jordan is God in my household.
Don't tell that to your mom.
I was
yeah.
gonna say.
She'd be like, he's a witch. Someone called Michael Jordan's mom.
Straight to jail.
I
Straight
gave
to
birth
jail.
to a witch.
Yeah. So fuck. At some point we're gonna get to Salem. Sarah says it ain't easy being yeasty. Ooh.
Oh shit! Oh, Sarah's like killing it today.
He's on it.
Yeah, she's crushing it. The MVP of this episode for sure.
Sarah.
Yeah. So witchcraft. If you're unfamiliar, there's several schools of thought. So modern witchcraft is not at all thought to be directly related to the devil. If you ask religious people, it is. But if you ask actual witches or people who practice witchcraft, which is different than being Wiccan, in the witch's eyes. So again, to the general population, being Wiccan and being a witch is the same thing. If you ask people who are witches, being Wiccan is not the same thing, but practicing something close, a pagan school of thought that is very similar to actual witchcraft. But either way, today's witches are not agents of the devil or tied to the devil anyway, but rather are agents of Earth. They again, this is going to sound like Wiccan, so if like that helps you better, then I guess think of it. But witches are agents of Earth. They are able to use the natural world around them to manipulate the world, and obviously not manipulate in a sinister way, but just manipulate in the most technical way possible the world and shape the world around them. And this is in no way, the Satanists who are not into Satan, I mean, actual devil worshippers, they kind of believe in some similar things, but they don't practice it in the same way at all. And so when you think of the devil and witches now, in the modern context, they're not tied. Obviously, in Salem, when these things were happening, the reason that witches were bad was because they were of the devil. There was a thought, a belief, that witches could not become witches, or, they were not born that way, they were not cursed. You had to be willing to be influenced by the devil and then born of his covenant, and baptized in his blood and all that fucking shit it's kind of poetic, but it's also got a lot of people killed. So
it's like Crips, dog. You can't like just be it. Like, you gotta be born into it, bro.
Well, they certainly got jumped in.
Yeah.
And
that's what's up, cuz. That's what's up. I'm just kidding.
Hey, fool.
Hey, fool.
You a witch or what, dog? You're a rocker fool, huh?
Hey, you're a rocker fool, huh? Alright. Shout out to the poser rocker girls at fucking Eve.
At Eve? To the poser goth girls?
Yeah.
Fuck you guys.
The poser witches.
Who refused to wear a mask because I guess God was going to save them. Or the devil, rather, I'm sorry. Anyway, so...
They had a yeast infection, dog.
So
I don't know why it went there. Right.
So back then, you get a direct correlation, not correlation, a connection between the witches and the devil, which is what caused the mass hysteria once it was thought that there were witches afoot in the area. And they just couldn't escape that. I mean, there wasn't... You couldn't escape God. Not that you couldn't escape what witches or anything. You just couldn't escape God. Every single aspect of life revolved around God. And it made people hysterical. It made people believe in all sorts of shit that wasn't true because of their staunch religious conviction. Take it a step further, the people around you had a very strong faith, and so you would believe anything that those people told you, because you didn't want to deviate from your faith. It would create these mob mentalities. They got a lot of innocent people killed, and we're not just talking about witches. We're talking about all sorts of shit that happened to people that got them killed. That literally got them killed. just for existing. And that's where we find ourselves in Salem. However, you also have, not however, but in addition, you have the idea that these witches existed, that there were a lot of innocent people that died, and that there's no way around that, but that these beliefs and these thoughts came from a place that was genuine, and further than that, true. That the devil is in fact in New England, from the forests of Jersey all the way up to Maine. That the evils.
He used to play for the Patriots. He's down in Tampa Bay now, I heard.
You motherfucker! Ever call it the fucking Tom Brady? Tom Brady's the GOAT, baby. Unless he loses next Sunday. From the forests of Jersey. Sorry, I have this written down. From the forests of Jersey all the way up to Maine, and then across the sea, the evils that live beneath the soil in this country, and the evils that were brought here on boats from the haunted land across the sea. Witches were a real thing. And there were people that were able to influence and manipulate the world around them in a way that was sinister and that was evil. And whether or not it was of the devil, it was bad for the people of those communities. And it was bad for the reputation of townships and places you didn't want to be associated with witches and with evil. And now we have a brief venture into the movie The Witch, which happens to be one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And in addition to the Blair Witch Project, which I also love, is a nice reference point for witches in our society, how they're perceived, how they're thought of in pop culture and in society in general. Before we do that, let's go ahead and get another shot in, catch up with some comments. And our chat disconnected, and it's back. We have no comments, which usually I would just ignore, but for some reason, fuck it. Well, yeah, but it's because it was disconnected. I didn't know. I thought it was a new comment, but it was still in the chat. So yeah, let's take another shot. The Wheel Ernie, Jesus, our special guest slash old friend. If you want to make a cheers, if you don't, I can. But if you want to do it, please.
But can I call you Jesus for the rest of this episode? I just feel like it fits.
Of course.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Jesus. Thanks.
It's, it's a really popular thing, I guess, with the whole, like, with my name, that females call me Jesus, and then just males call me Jesus. I don't know why, but just like my whole life, it's been like that. But
because they're witches, Jesus. Have we not been over this?
Oh,
We've
shit.
literally been talking about this whole time.
They can't say the what's closer to the Hebrew name of Yahweh, Jesus. They have to say Jesus.
Sorry.
I think of Yahweh! Yahweh! Alright.
That's what he was calling God to save him from that river. And he didn't show up.
Oh, and God.
That other kid was just trying to baptize him. Yahweh! Well, anyway, here's to the fucking... to the GOAT, Tom Brady, beating the Saints today. Fuck the Saints, bro.
Let's fucking go, baby!
Cheers.
Fire them cannons, go Bucks!
Yeah, Jordan Peele. Woo.
But he makes some good movies.
He makes great movies.
Yeah, no, he really does.
I like Jordan Peele a lot, but when I hear Jordan, I think of Michael Jordan.
Like, I don't think that, yeah.
I think of Michael B. Jordan.
From Black Panther.
Yeah.
Yes, Jesus.
Imagine being born Michael Jordan, and then still having to try to make yourself famous.
Just add a
It's like
just being like a very short version with like no basketball skill whatsoever. He still made it in a basketball game. He's in fucking like 2K, I don't know what year, but he's in a basketball game in like the career mode.
He also looks like Nick Cannon, which is unfortunate for him.
Yo, Cannon's dope, dog. It's a generation.
No, he's not.
Not even a little bit.
He did date Mariah Carey. That's just me. That's
Fucking rocket, bro.
Ugh.
Love it.
Fuck her and her Christmas song.
All I want
will.
for Christmas is Mariah Carey, dog.
That's just.
Me and Mariah.
Go back like babies and pacifiers.
Let's do an episode where we just cover Mariah Carey.
I'll be absent that day, guys.
We just
Sorry.
talk about
I can't
old dirty
make it.
bastards. Shimmy,
Well-
shimmy, y'all, shimmy, yam, shimmy, yay.
We're all over here like fucking, like the Zohan, like, Mariah, I love you!
There is one other good Mariah Carey song, or at least, so the Fantasy is a fucking great song. Like even if you don't like the Christmas song, which you should, Fantasy is a fucking phenomenal song. Just that little like, that they use in the It's Always Sunny episode where they buy a boat.
Yeah.
It's a great song. And then add Old Dirty Bastard to anything and you make it better. So. Back to Salem.
So.
Actually, we brought this up because most of you guys don't know, Mariah Carey's a witch. And that's what we're transitioning into.
That's why she still looks so young.
Hell yeah, bro.
They didn't age. So, going into The Witch, the movie, and talking about, again, I think it's important. I think that it's helpful to connect popular culture and things that we can reference and actively understand to things that are part of the lore or the mythology or reality, which in this case we're not going to make that far of a connection. But it is at least part of the lore. It is at least part of the mythology. And there's a couple of things that The Witch gets very, very accurate in accordance to what historians have said about witches and the existence of witches. And the first of those is the flying ointment. So the baby that is Samuel in the movie is captured when he is being looked at by the main character of the movie, who is his older sister. And when the baby is taken, there's not like a lot of stuff happens with the characters after that, but there's not a lot actually going on with the witch until you see a couple of scenes. So there's a scene where she presents herself to the boy, to the main boy Caleb, and she's like presenting herself as very sexual and that kind of thing. And then there's a scene where she takes the baby, and there's a scene where she makes a potion. If you're unfamiliar with witches, this series of scenes is easy to misinterpret. It can be interpreted as just a part of a horror movie. It can be interpreted as like this Witch of the Wood individual lore that is being created in the microcosm of the movie. But it has a big part, it has a big presence in actual witchcraft. And it is heavily implied during these scenes that the witch, and in accordance to the ending, which we'll go over right now, that the witch was creating something called a flying ointment. And it is said that witches, in order to fly, which was a part of their worship, in order to have levitation powers and things like that, they had to take part in the ritual of a flying ointment, which needed the blood of an innocent child. So it needed the blood of a baby that has yet to be baptized, which is also made obvious in the movie. But if you don't know what's going on, then I've just told you, go back and watch it in that context. And honestly, it's a little more creepy if you look at it that way.
It is.
And then at the end, you obviously see the coven of witches. Spoiler alert. you see the coven of witches with encouraging Thomasin to go and join them, and then she does, and they're all naked and dancing around fire, and then they levitate. And it's heavily implied that the reason that they levitate is that they are giving the flying ointment made out of Thomasin's baby brother Samuel. And then you have Black Phillip, who's probably like the coolest part of the movie. In my eyes anyway, at the very end, he's the one that goes, "How was thou like to live deliciously?" And
That creeped me out. Do it again. Slower.
How would thou like to live deliciously?
Deliciously?
Yeah, that's
thank
what he
you.
says.
That was good.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, deliciously is what he says.
Mm-hmm.
And he's thought to be obviously not only an extension but a manifestation of the devil. And so you get all of the elements of actual witchcraft in a tiny and obviously he's not sitting there explaining like, this is what witches do and this is what they're, no, like you have to kind of pick it up, which I think is brilliant in itself, and makes it better on a rewatch once you've listened to me talk about this stuff. And then and in accordance to Salem, a lot of those themes and a lot of the things that happen in The Witch translate. Flying ointments were thought to be a big part of what witches did, and any excuse to call something a flying ointment. So in that time period, you obviously, like Sarah mentioned, you have herbalists and you have doctors trying their best, but having a lot of difficulties because the medical science just wasn't there. And so healers and people that medicine men, but not in the native sense, in the sense that was then transferred to colonists. All of those kinds of people made a lot of ointments. And so that could be called a flying ointment at any turn. As a matter of fact, there are records that show that flying ointments, the smell that was described coming from a flying ointment, there's literally like 30 different actual documents that say that the ointment smells any different. So you could literally say anything. Like, you'd be like, this ointment smelled like sage. It's a flying ointment. This person is a witch. That's literally all that it took. And so flying ointments became much like, I didn't know about the milk or the butter thing, but I did read that anything that wasn't seen as a normal household item could be called a flying ointment, and then you could be called a witch and then killed. And then the other thing that the movie did, it did everything well. I won't be convinced otherwise. But the other part of it that was historically accurate was that witchcraft and the accusations of witchcraft and the fallout that came from witchcraft happened to concentrate and largely affect people who were incredibly religious. Salem is a town built much like much of the original colonies. That part of America was founded based on fleeing religious persecution. So the people that were here at that point in time were religious. There were not enough generations between the people that came here to flee religious persecution and the generation that was currently living for religion not to be anything but the most prominent central part of these people's lives. And so you constantly got examples of people either being too religious and then that area was affected by witchcraft, or not religious enough and then those people were convinced or accused of being witches from the overly religious people. And obviously in The Witch, you get these people that are isolated. That's the scariest part. They're isolated and still affected by this witch, by the accusations of witchcraft, which you see when the younger siblings accuse Thomasin and so on and so forth. And so the witch, while not directly referencing Salem, does talk about how these settlers were in the Northeast United States, and can be interpreted as a Salem story, somewhere near Salem, somewhere that inspired Salem because of this witchcraft. And I thought that all those things were important, again, to give you some kind of reference. Thoughts, questions, concerns?
So Sarah says that Vicks is a flying ointment, and any medical salve was considered a flying ointment, and there were some that caused hallucinations.
Yeah, so you think about all of the things that we know now cause hallucinations. Obviously, not in the American Northeast, but you think about like peyote or ayahuasca. If there's anything, which there is, that we know for a fact there is, if there's any plants or anything like that that could produce those same effects in the American Northeast, and then you happen to make one because you also know that it takes people's pain away, you could be prosecuted and killed because you were a witch. And that's ultimately where we have the problems. We'll take another little, not a break, we're not taking a break, but we'll take a break in what I'm talking about, and we'll talk about other things for a second while we look at our drinks here, and then I will get into kind of the final segment of this whole thing, which is why the devil lives in Northeast America and why he decided to propagate and proliferate his evil beings. I don't know what I want to call them. Agents. His agents of evil in that particular part of the United States, which led to the actual real witchcraft that happened. How's everybody feeling? We're an hour and 40 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, just about.
Into this, and so how does everybody feel at this point? Michelle, you must have 1,000 things to say.
Kind of. So, earlier you were explaining, I guess like witchcraft versus devil worship versus like being Wiccan, right?
Yes.
And within all of that, I just was kind of taking that in, taking everything like I had read on my own, the whole witch talk thing, etc. And I came up with this conclusion that I don't know if it's me oversimplifying or I kind of just like grasped it all. Would you say then that modern day witches are just pagan feminists? Or am I oversimplifying it?
I wouldn't say that it's oversimplified. I would just caution the paganism part of it. I think that there's plenty of things that have to do, not have to do, but get their roots from paganism. I just think that there's a lot more into it, and I think that when you're looking at a modern witch, there's a lot of spirituality in that, but there's a lot of positive and negative energy, which is not something that we see at all in witchcraft in history. We do not get this thing of, hey, witchcraft can be positive. And that's where the distinction happens between paganism and witchcraft, because paganism does not acknowledge that positive side of things.
Okay. So, there's another thing, like you were talking, I think you might get into this later, but about like modern, I guess, takes on witches or how we see them. More so, I guess, like in media. But there's one thing I was reading, it was basically saying that every time, I'm just going to read it out loud, it's interesting, every time feminism makes a turn for a new era, there's also a resurgence in witchcraft. You saw it in the 70s, you saw, and that's what it had a lot to do with like holistic herbal medicine, you saw it again in the 90s, so it's talking about that, but also talking about, there's a specific movement, it's called the Witch Movement, which stands for Women's International Terrorist Conspiracy from Hell. And they basically just make this kind of connection between women, witchcraft, and politics. And they pull something out of a book on paganism that writes, feminist witches have stated that witchcraft is not incompatible with politics, and further, that the craft is a religion historically conceived in rebellion and can therefore be true to its true nature only when it continues its ancient fights against oppression. So, what about all of that? So basically, yeah, it's just there's a lot of ties between these covens because I don't want to say this is more like the witch movement that I said, right? The Women's International Terrorist Conspiracy from Hell. Some of them are they are practicing witches, right? And they came out in 1968. And again, it came out because during the second wave feminists. So again, if we're talking about Salem, talking about like who was like, it was like women being persecuted. I'm trying to make this connection, and again, that connection is there, but is that the only connection? Or like, what's the other thing that ties this outer kind of, it's not just feminism, it's not, the only reason why kind of we were talking about earlier that these more modern, younger witches are able to make these videos and post them on TikTok, but is it just, again, like the idea of like fighting against this ancient oppression,
I think that, so if you're talking about framing things in the context of actual witchcraft, no, it can't be. But also 100% in the spirit of it, that witchcraft, Satanism, anything that comes from that realm of thought, not that realm of actually existing, but that place of thought. Satanism is a rebellion. Satanism comes from a place of being the ultimate rebel. If you want to think of it in context of Satan, who was the first ever rebel, or you want to think it in the context of the Church of Satan, which has nothing to do with Satan and wants you to be your own person at all costs, you're still
that's like
being
Anton
rebellious.
LaVey's Satanism, right? Like
Right.
That has its own, yeah.
And what Anton LaVey wanted you to do was be the most you that you could possibly be at all costs. And he didn't want you to believe in religion, and he didn't want you to believe in certain temples of a collectivist ideal. And those things come from a place that is rebellious. And so witchcraft, among those things, I think has to be the feminist face of that sort of rebellion. Fuck God. But not just from a rebellious standpoint, from a rebellious standpoint that is also essentially, not essentially in the way that idiots use it, essentially the actual way that it's supposed to be. The essence of it, is feminist. The essence of this rebellion is feminist in a way that other people cannot have. They wouldn't even call quote unquote male witches witches. They call them warlocks, because being a witch is inherently feminist. It's inherently female. It has inherent female energy, and so I think that there's, again, you earlier said that something was 50-50. This is where I'm going to take my 50-50 card. I think that there is something that is feminist rebellion inherently about being a witch and about witchcraft. I just don't think that it can be defined in that narrow spectrum of things, because I think there's also something inherently evil about being a witch, which I see as a good thing, right? I feel like it makes it more cool. But then if I say that something's inherently feminist rebellion, and then I also say that it's inherently evil, I'm connecting those two things. Yeah. I'm saying that rebellion feminism is inherently evil, which I am not at all saying. So But that's where I push.
Okay, I guess there's still some part of this, the idea, like, to me it was not weird, but like I'll see these videos on TikTok. I'm like, okay, like I'm about it. It's cool, but I guess there's something that I'm missing. I guess my mind is still like, again, on the extremes. Either it's like, you know, the evil witches that were killed in Salem, or like that kind of mentality, versus like Sabrina and like pop culture witches, you know? And I guess that's just me trying to figure it out, but I see what you mean as far as like kind of that connection we both made about the whole witches are inherently feminist, but also that there is a sort of something evil or evil-esqueness attached to it. Maybe we just gotta keep talking, and I'll figure it out later.
Fair enough. Rebecca says, Bex, I'm sorry. In 1976, Linda Caporail offered the first evidence that the Salem witch trials followed an outbreak of rye ergot. Ergot is a fungus blight that forms hallucinogenic drugs in a bread, or so it goes. So my only problem with that version of things is this. There were a lot of people that were not affected by anything. They were just people trying to live their lives, and then they were accused of being witches. Was that first woman, and I have to go back and look at her name.
Bridget Bishop?
Bridget Bishop, thank you. It was Bridget Bishop affected by this ergot? Possibly. I don't know, and I didn't get to that part of the research, which I just can't say one way or the other. But there were so many people, so many women that were just accused of being witches with no. There's just nothing else. There isn't any. There's no record of strange behavior. There's no record of anything other than them just trying to exist and live their lives. And so I guess it's not a problem with that train of thought, because again, this woman was just trying to put forth like an explanation of why things could have happened. It just isn't a singular explanation for what actually happened on the other side of things where people are getting killed.
So like also like in turn the whole idea with like that fungus, right?
Well, so Sarah says it was the little girls who did the accusing who were supposed to have eaten the bread.
But in that case, if we're talking about like who, like, you know, like flying ointment, right? Like something that was found that was, you know, not normal to have in a household. If someone had seen that bread and then, you know, maybe the little girls, right, then accused her, then they could have said like, oh, well, we ate the bread and she made it, like it was her. Like I feel like that can also just be deterred, like regardless, even if this is something like a quote unquote logical, more modern explanation we can have for all of this going down, but it's still like, well, they would have seen it as something that was found and like not normal to have, so they still would have been accused. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that again, like, thank you for providing the information about how all this started. Like, of course, like that's great for us to know. But I think it just went so much further than that initial incident that, again, I think people are going to try to use the excuse of that kind of thing as like, oh, it started this mass hysteria. Sure it did. Let's say that it absolutely did, but then obviously there were a lot of outside factors that made it kind of run rampant and wild. And so those girls, you know, they not that they were really victims to begin with, right? Because you would have to believe that they were actually under the spell of witchcraft, or the influence, I think is a better word, of witchcraft, in order to write off this whole thing about the bread. I think that it absolutely could be true, but that makes them less the victim and even more so just kind of pieces of shit that ruined a lot of people's lives. And I think that that's where ultimately we not conclude as far as the episode, but as far as where we're eventually going to get. A lot of lives were ruined for absolutely no reason. A lot of lives were ruined because people were not willing to talk about things like mental illness. They didn't understand. We were so far removed, even in regular medicine, that thinking about medicine and the practice of medicine and mental health, we were hundreds of years away. And so these people just really didn't stand a chance. And that's the whole tragedy of this thing, but also the devil is largely thought to exist and thrive in that part of America, in the American Northeast. And at the beginning of this episode, I really wanted to get into why these people could actually be witches, and then it didn't happen. But that's okay. We got into a lot of the history.
Say it real quick. 1, 2, 3, go.
Well, if you're gonna assume that the devil is real, if you're going to in philosophy of science, they would teach you that if you believe that something is inherently and purely good, then there has to be something on the opposite end of the spectrum. I've seen as close to inherently as purely good as I need to see to believe that there is something on the opposite side that is incredibly evil and inherently so. I think that if you want to connect witches to the devil, you have to do so cautiously, only because there are a lot of modern witch practices that are not that way. But especially back then, there was a lot of stuff that would suggest that there was. And I don't think that you can entirely write off at least the genesis of witch practice without tying it to something inherently evil. And tying it to something that is part of, if we were in Middle Earth, they would call ancient magic. Something that we just can't possibly wrap our head around and understand. I think those things exist. And I think those things are out there. And I think to say that they don't is wrong. And whether you want to call them witches or warlocks or necromancers or whatever the fuck words you want to use, there are agents of pure evil that take the form of human beings. And they exist and they're out there, and I beg you to look and to see them. And this has nothing to do with God or religion. It has something to do with the forces and the balance of the universe. And so I'm not willing to write off witches as this thing that didn't happen. I'm also not willing to say that they're this thing that in modern TikTok culture is just good and pure and nice. I don't think these people know what they're fucking with. I think if they did, they wouldn't do it. And I think that they're almost being disrespectful to something that I feel like should have more respect. I feel like people should look at these things with a little bit more caution and understanding.
And that's definitely one thing that I kind of wanted to mention, and I think you worded it pretty well for me. But yeah, it's fun, like I said, watching these videos. I do follow some of the girls, but I have this feeling of dis-ease when I am watching it, because it's do you really know? Do I? Do Pete? They're doing it for fun while recording themselves. Don't get me wrong, they look gorgeous. Their makeup is all done. They have their outfits and all of this. But it's if this were as as real, as intricate, as ancient as they're claiming it to be, why the fuck are you making a TikTok video about it? Just to get likes, just to get this energy off of me and the other thousands of people watching it. Well, maybe that's also the thing that they need. They need that energy back. I don't know. Again, I don't know. But kind of how you said, not the whole. It's not bullshit. But just maybe they don't really know what they're playing with,
Yeah,
and it's
I don't think
it's
they have
also
any
the
idea.
lack of true respect, I guess. Um, and maybe it could also be my misunderstanding of those. Again, specifically, I'm talking about the TikTok videos that I have seen, right?
Yeah.
Um, maybe that's just me, and I just need to do a little more research. Maybe this is like a new modern, like it's okay, you can like show it off, like it's fine. But I mean, but then again, I don't know because I do have this feeling of disease when I watch them. Certain ones. Um,
Well, so Sarah says, well, the TikTok baby witches actually got into trouble this summer because they cursed the Fae. So a lot of them do not understand their own craft, and you are right to warn. Fae ancient magic. The Fae, in my... I'm not going to say understanding, because clearly I don't understand what it means. Fae means elves to me, so like Fae means of elven
like a
magic.
fairy. No?
Yeah, well, and so in Ireland, the Fae is something that, like the Druids and ancestors of the Druids believe in heavily, and it has something to do with like elves and fairies, and so I don't know enough about it in real life application to say one way or the other. I'm gonna absolutely take your word for it. And I am actually going to look into more of how they cursed the Fae. I think that's fucking fascinating, so I'm gonna definitely check that out. And here we go towards the end of our episode. We've been at this for about 2 hours, and that's about where we like to keep our podcasts so that they're not intimidating to people who are going back and listening to them retroactively. And so we're going to go ahead and get into wrapping things up. Does anyone want to talk about something that I didn't bring up, something that we have neglected to talk about so far?
I do. Real quick,
Yes.
I'll keep it nice, short, and I do have it written down. It's a little short paragraph, but as far as Salem, right? That was the topic of our podcast today,
Right.
of our episode. Basically, I did get some messages when I posted to my Instagram saying, "Oh my God, I went there for my birthday like X amount of years ago. It was so much fun seeing like all the this and that, like the witch house and just etc." Right? So seeing that, reading the history, everything we just talked about, right now. The fact that the city is still profiting off of the death of these women is fucking infuriating, but it's not shocking because femicide is popular in entertainment. Like, look at a lot of the serial killer documentaries on Netflix, but that's not entertainment. It shouldn't be used for profit. We're talking about it now, but we're discussing like the hauntings and I guess we were supposed to talk about that a little bit more, but we were talking about how it was silly, you don't have more than 2 children, straight to jail. We made light of it, joke of it, but we were all discussing, at the end, it was innocent lives were lost because of this. And Salem is still making money off of this. Specifically, innocent lives of, women. So, yeah, we should talk about it and educate and learn and grow, etc. But, let's not stop fucking profiting from it and continuing damning these women as evil. They're already dead. Let them be. And this is, again, kind of just not towards us, but more so, we're not fucking making money off of this, but this is more so, Salem and their, tourism. Fucking stop. That's not entertainment. I don't know. I wouldn't go to pay money to be yeah, show me where these women died. I'm not about that. And, that's it. No, that's it. That's all I got.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with your sentiment as far as exploitation. So for me, again, I couldn't be. That is not at all the place that I'm coming from.
No.
And I'm not saying that you were
much.
accusing me. I just think
Yeah.
like as a whole, that's not. That's you did a great job in eloquently explaining where to draw the line. If you're making money off of the death of these women, if you're getting notoriety or furthering your purpose or not, and that's actually a bad word, furthering your narrative or your what you want based on these women's death is wrong. We're obviously not. I just want to believe in witchcraft. That's where that's where my heart is. I want to believe in it. I want in the same way that I would not be exploiting dead people to talk about ghosts, or I wouldn't be exploiting fucking La Llorona, Mexican women to talk about La Llorona. I just want to believe in it. I just want to believe in it.
So
I want it to be real.
To make a more specific example of, in the messages that I got, that someone went to Salem and that they paid money to speak to someone who said was they were like a blood relative to Bridget Bishop, right? And she charged a lot of money because she had proof to show the fucking, what are those things called? Oh my gosh, those new genetic test things, but it was she basically had a certificate on her front door saying yes, I'm related to her. Let's come over, let's talk about her, but it'll be $250 because I am actually related to her. It'll be a legitimate experience, blah blah blah, and it's no bitch, stop. I mean, again, maybe, but if that were the case, if that was really your relative, if that was, a blood, that you cared about, please stop making money off of her. Let her, spirit rest. Stop. And stop letting, documentary people go, or, just tourists go and take pictures and stomp all over her gravesite. There was something that didn't sit right with me. The whole, here, look, I'm actually related to her. We're blood relatives, blah, blah. Give me money, and you might talk to her or whatever.
I think in any context where you're then, again, profiting, maybe even it isn't monetarily, but notoriety or whatever else you could possibly profit, any other way you could possibly profit. Once you start profiting off of the lost lives of innocent people, you should probably think twice about what you're involved in. And I think that's where we're going to draw the line for the end of this episode. I realize that there's a lot, so we didn't get into specific hauntings in Salem. There's a lot of haunted places, but I think that the conversation that we did have is incredibly important, but more importantly, in the strict context of trying to entertain people, I think it was entertaining, and so I don't feel bad about shifting the conversation that way during the podcast. I think that it was completely acceptable for us to do that. I was very entertained by what we were talking about. So we do have what we're going to be talking about next week, which I'm excited to kind of talk to people about before we take our last drinking opportunity, and that is we are going to talk about Eliza Lam, who is a Canadian student who was found dead in the water tower of a very seedy hotel on Skid Row, and this person produced one of the best videos on the internet. So if you're watching right now and you plan to come hang out with us on Friday, I cannot encourage you more to go watch the video of Eliza Lam and watch it and read about it and listen to people on YouTube commenting about it, because it is fucking fascinating. It's super fucking creepy. It gives me chills and makes me creeped out to the core of my being, and that's what we are going to have the pleasure of talking about next episode, which I think is going to be Friday. We'll make sure that we let you know on that part of it. But man, am I fucking excited about this.
They released a new Netflix like documentary on her, didn't they? Or it's coming out
Did
soon?
they? Did they already release it?
I'm not too sure if it's already released, or I know at least it's coming out soon.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
Well, I want to release our episode as a partner to that episode. So, like, it's not going to have anything, one is not going to have, like, a direct correlate. I don't want to watch the Netflix episode and then tailor our episode to it, but I want you, like, I want you to be as fucking hyped as I am to watch the Netflix documentary. Like, I'm so fucking hyped to watch it, and I want our episode to put you in that same headspace. I want you to go into the Netflix documentary knowing a bunch of shit and having seen the videos and listening to the theories, and then we'll all get into the Netflix documentary together, and we can keep talking about this thing. And so I could not be more excited for talking about that, and I know for a fact, because we've already talked about it, that Michelle is incredibly excited as well.
February 10th.
Sarah P says elevator games. Yes, Sarah P. We are going to be getting into the elevator game. We're going to be talking about the elevator game and the consequences of the elevator game and how to play the elevator game and the possibility that Eliza was in fact playing the elevator game. So I'm glad that you brought that up. February 10th is when it comes out?
Yeah, next month on the 10th. A 4-part docu-series.
Well, there you go.
She died on the 2nd of February.
Boom. Works out even better. So I guess we could owe Ernie a lot of shots if we were going to take every single match in the way that we did it. But instead, we're just going to take one big shot for all of the things that all of the kills that we owe him for. How do you feel about your performance today, video gaming, Arnold?
That was fun. The last couple matches, I was just kind of messing around. Like, I wanted to try out. I hadn't really played with Demogorgon, so I tried that, and I got fucking smashed. But it's okay. I played Nurse just to fuck around, and of course, it's Nurse, and I suck with Nurse, so I got fucking messed up. But it was fun. The first few matches where I was actually like super trying to be sweaty, that's where I got like all those kills. But it was fun. It was a fun day. Hearing you guys talk about the crazy cat that got everyone killed. It's a crazy day.
Crazy cat.
This whole conversation reminded me of after I have sex with my wife. She's just like, so how do you think your performance went today? And I'm like, yeah, it was great. It was fun. I really didn't know what I was doing, but yeah, it was had fun.
I enjoyed myself, and that's really all that matters. Well, I thank you all for indulging me on this particular subject. I know that there were a lot of angles that we could have taken, and actual witchcraft is a very difficult one to take among those things. But I'm very happy to talk.
Thought we were gonna do a fucking seance tonight, dog.
Dude, I fucking wish, man. The last time that we did a seance, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. The last time we did a seance, and it was a lot of fun. but yeah, just maybe we'll have, not maybe, in the future, people that are listening, we're gonna have a seance episode, and it's gonna be fucking dope. So
let's make a baby flying potion.
Yeah, dude, let's make we'll make a flying ointment. It's gonna be a lot of fun for everybody involved, except for the baby that we kill.
You gotta crack a few eggs and make an omelet, know what I'm saying?
Hey, there you go, there you go. That's what I'm saying.
It's for a greater cause.
Please don't kill babies.
Satan.
I mean, alright, I guess. Let's take one more drink and then we'll get out of here. Thank you to Sarah P for commenting and schooling us and letting us know. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you to Bex, who was in there. Thank you for Jared, who showed up when he can. I believe Megan and Luis and Violet are listening. So hello, guys. Thank you guys for hanging out and showing up. And everybody else who's listening. If I didn't get to you, it's only because I don't know if you're out there. So thanks, guys. And we'll take this last drink, and then we'll get to the end of our episode. So. You guys can let's cheers real quick. My cheers is going to be to Massachusetts, which is also known as New England. New England is the home of the Patriots. The Patriots produced a man named Tom Brady, who was then signed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I thought we already cheers to this.
No, I'm not cheersing to Tom Brady. I'm cheersing to Massachusetts.
Okay.
Anyway, all those things, and then Tom Brady came to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's won the playoff games. Now we're in the NFC Championship. So Massachusetts, cheers to Massachusetts.
I'm choosing to those sexy ass witches that knocked on your door.
Hey.
I refuse to believe they weren't sexy. I know they were sexy underneath.
Come on back, baby.
Come on back.
Cheers.
All right. Good job, everybody. Good episode.
Alright, so, anyone, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube.
We're making an OnlyFans too.
No, we're not, but... yeah.
You don't know that.
I mean, come on now.
Well, if you want to see Josh walk around in Daisy Dukes and pay $25 a month to watch it, I mean, you're more than welcome to.
Hey, he did that
OnlyFans.com.
busted challenge.
OnlyFans.com/JoshyDef.
Bust it.
Hit it up.
And then check out my OnlyFans, JDaddy2Holes.
JDaddy2Holes. Also, if that account gets blocked, then go look for him at JDaddy Butt Cheeks.
Boom. Easy, there you go.
Easy, boom. Backup account.
Alright, let's get out of here.
And then,
right.
You already know me. Man, fuck the free world.
313. Oh, that feels so good.